you know, the breath is this, it's this gateway. So if you are feeling like there's something that you're struggling with, to find clarity about, or settling in your bones about, or just working through something that's difficult, the breath is usually the place where we lose ourselves first. You know, we kind of can guard our breath, or hold our breath, or shorten our breath. And let's try to remember that the breath is our best gift. It's what we have in our practice that really supports us the most. So even though yesterday's practice was very much focused on breathing, and I'm not going to go into the mechanics of it today, I just want you to keep that on the little back burner, that, you know, breathing well through your practice is probably the most important thing you can do in your asana practice. Okay. So let's sit up straight and tall, and just take a moment to find this deep ground. We're going to just do some hip work today. We're going to kind of get into opening up the pelvis a little bit, opening up to the hips. So I want you, when you're sitting here for a moment, to first just notice, are you comfortable in your seated posture? You know, I'm sitting up on a bolster. If you're sitting flat on the ground, this is often a very difficult posture for us to maintain. So getting your hips elevated a little bit so that they're at least in line with the knees, maybe even above the knees, can be very helpful for aligning the pelvis and spine well. When we sit with a ever so slight anterior tilt to the pelvis, so we can feel our sit bones, we put our sacrum in its very stable position of nutation, where the top of the sacrum just tips forward a little bit, stabilizing our spine. This is a very good place to be in your seated posture. So look for that as you're sitting. Maybe roll back and forth for a moment on the back edge of your sit bones, on the front edge of your sit bones, till you find that neutral place where you feel stable and relaxed. Allow your knees to drop. See if you cannot have the feeling that your hip flexors are having to scoop and hold you. Is there a place for your hip flexors to soften? Align the spine so that things become a little bit less efforting. Can you find the effortless posture? And then, of course, if you're spending a lot of time on a computer, or, I mean, who's not these days, right? But if you're finding a lot of that computer posture of rounded spine and jutting your neck forward or your face forward, see if you can now forget about technology, just wipe it from your body memory and come into that stance of alignment where the crown is right over the pelvis. You might feel like you're pulling your head back. It might feel unusual to be aligned. This may not be a habituated pattern. So even if you feel slightly like you're tipping backward, see what you can do to feel, where is my torso and my head over my pelvis? So experiment, even like we just rocked forward and back in the hips a little bit, to sense where you are on your sit bones. Lean forward and lean back with your torso and your head to find, where is that sweet spot where you lose the efforting of it. And can you feel, once you get there, that the alignment of your spine is really a feeling of axial extension, where the discs have room, that you have a buoyancy to your vertebrae, that nothing's collapsing with gravity, but you're also not having to push against gravity. That's a very neutral, easy stance, easy posture to be in. And once you've explored that, notice what your chest feels like. Are you open-hearted? Are you collapsed? Do you feel like keeping your chest open is work? Can you find a neutral position with your shoulder blades now, where you're not scooping the shoulders forward, you're not squeezing the shoulder blades together, that the shoulder blades can float on the rib cage, dropping down, and a slight sense of moving into the ribs and toward each other without grip or tense. So looking for these alignment places, and now notice your hands. Are they soft? Are you gripped? Do you want your palms up, or do you want your palms down? And now, with all of this that you've explored, now let's soften the face. See what you can do to melt your expressions. to come into that sense of anything is possible. And with all this ease and spaciousness and stability, find your breath. Can you feel your diaphragm moving down and wide? Can you feel the ribs expand and release? Do you have a 360 breath? Is there a sensation in the back of your body, the sides of your body? Can you feel sensation in your belly as you breathe? Can you keep soft in your neck and shoulders as you breathe? Once you find the physicality of your movement of breath, can you invite the energy flow? Can you feel that what you're inviting in, prana, energy, nourishment for every cell in your body, nourishment for your heart, your emotional states, nourishment for the mind? Can you begin to slow down the exhales just a bit more, just subtly? It doesn't have to be like, let's see how long we can hold the breath out. Just a subtle, like slow pace, a stroll through the out breath. Place your palms together at your heart. Center your attention and your focus and create an intention for your practice. What do you need support with today? How can you practice cultivate what you need? Let's release the hands and find your way onto your back. Okay. So as we lie down, have a sense of, you've already spent a little time centering and focusing. Can you now feel that the supine posture gives you something else? Is there a way for you to melt into the earth? Is there a way for your limbs to feel restful and spacious? Give yourself over to gravity. Let go of any expectations of what's coming next. See if you can suspend all the thought processes of what's coming later after your practice and just be in the body and breath. All right, then let's begin to move. Stretch the arms overhead and feel a full body length. Maybe wiggling toes, rolling ankles, rolling wrists, rolling fingers. And if you want to climb a little bit, stretching one side and then the other side, let this posture be all about waking the body, inviting yourself home into sensation. Okay. All right, great. And then relax and bring your knees into your chest and rock a little bit from side to side. Okay, and just check in. How's your back today? Are you having any vulnerabilities in your shoulders, your hips, your knees, anywhere in your spine, anywhere that you need to pay attention to, be nourishing to? All right, let's circle one direction, feel into the sacroiliac joints. Whenever we do, some solid hip work in our practice, we really want to be mindful of not overtaxing our very stable sacroiliac joints. Our goal is not to open up this joint. Our goal is to use the stability of our pelvis to help us feel the freedom that comes from stability. Bring your knees in and let's open the knees wide and start to feel into the nooks and crannies of your hip joints and all the muscles that, there are a lot of muscles that confluence in your pelvis. Muscles from your legs, muscles from your spine, muscles from, your hips. There's just so many. So let's just see and feel what we feel. And then when you're ready, let's just gently, so don't go into your widest stance. Keep your knees apart from each other and just rock the knees toward the chest, rock the knees away from the chest, feeling the anterior and posterior tilt of the pelvis and sacrum. just a little bit. So we're not going into extremes here. We're just trying to sense into where is your natural endpoint of range of motion in your hip joints. All right, let's go ahead and put our feet down onto the ground. And we're going to feel into, that was some external rotation. We're going to feel into some internal rotation now. So take your feet a little wider than your hips. And we're going to keep our left knee up and draw the right knee toward the left foot, crossing it to the midline. A little internal rotation. Feel the stretch across the front of the pelvis. And then switch and change sides. Left leg coming toward, left knee moving toward right foot. You don't have to keep your right knee in the air. You can let it fall out to the right. And then come back. And then just windshield wiper in this way. So we're not, we're moving our knees a little bit more than we sometimes do. And just sense into what's happening here. How does your pelvis feel? How does this feel across the back of the body? And notice, do you have more range of motion? Does one knee tend to move into that internal rotation more than another knee, or, your whole femur bone, really? And then relax. Come into a neutral pelvis for a moment. Feet flat on the ground, knees bent, feet are hip width apart. You can choose to take them a little wider if you want to, and then choose a position for your arms. We're just going to rock the pelvis a little bit. So anterior tilt the pelvis. So the top of the sacrum lifts up, the bottom of the sacrum seesaws down, and then switch. Top of the sacrum drops into your tailbone lifts. And see if you can widen the sit bones as you drop the tail and lift the sacrum. And see if you can close the sit bones as you drop the sacrum and lift the tail. Try to let this be an action of the pelvic floor and the hips instead of just your glutes and inner thighs taking over. They're very strong, so we want this to be a much more subtle warming of the low back and the pelvis. Okay, breathe as you go. Inhale to anterior tilt the pelvis. Exhale to posterior tilt the pelvis. Can your breath go deep? All right. And then come back to a neutral pelvis. And one more time, windshield wipering your knees left and right. So I'm hoping you're feeling that the hips, the pelvis, and the low back are kind of, like 3 peas in a pod. That we can't really separate what's happening we can try. We can be like, I'm going to focus on my, pick a spot. But really, we never work in isolation. We work in conjunction. Let's roll all the way over to our left side. Come at right angles with your body. Knees are together. Feet are at right angles. You want your knees bent at right angles. Take a deep breath. Open up your right arm. Stretch open into a twist. Feel your spine stretch open. And then exhale and bring your hands back to touch each other. One more time. Taking a deep breath, stretching open the spine into a twist. And then exhale and rounding forward, not rounding forward, but coming forward. And then roll right over onto your other side. Knees and hips and feet are all at right angles to each other. You can put a blanket under your head if you need to. Arms are straight out from your shoulders, palms touching. Take a deep breath, open the book, spread open your chest. Feel the twist, feel how your ribs and your spine meet each other. Back to center. Inhale to open up. And then exhale to reach your hands back to center. Come back on your back. I promise we're going to get off our backs. Take your knees, chin, knees into your chest. Inhale. Spread your limbs wide on the floor. Wiggle fingers and toes. Exhale and draw the knees in again. Feeling that lying down cat-cow one more time. Open the breath, big, huge spaciousness. Exhale, compression in knees and hips and spine. And then roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So as you find all fours, let's enjoy even just a little bit more of that range of motion that we're looking for in our spine. So moving through some beautiful cat-cows. It's such a gift to do cat-cows. It might seem like such a simple action in the body, but it's such a beautiful way of warming the spine and getting in touch with all the parts of you. All right, so let's have a couple rounds of just flexion and extension, and then feel free to move. So you can You can roll your hips around. You can swirl through your shoulders, move your neck, anything that feels really nice. All right, and then to further loosen all the ligament, not ligaments, but the fascia and the soft tissue, muscles, all of it in your low back, let's do some pelvic circles. So tailbone on your paintbrush on your tailbone, draw a big circle on the wall behind you. I don't think this is a hula hoop action. This is not how I hula hoop anyway, but some people say like make a hoop with your pelvis and just feel into all the ways that you can warm up. And you can let this travel all the way to your shoulders and your neck. Are you breathing? And then change directions, swirl through your pelvis in a different way. Notice I never, seem to say go one way or the other way. So this is your pattern, less traveled in the body. Notice that. And then with a big anterior tilt to the pelvis. So lift and widen the sit bones, come back towards child's pose and feel the deep, deep flexion in the hip joints. See what you can do to really compress and allow that full range of motion in the hip joints to happen. Feel the spaciousness in your spine. Walk the hands to wherever they're comfortable. Take a deep breath and let it travel down your spine. When you're ready, walk the hands to one side and feel the side body open from fingers down through shoulders, rib cage, space between rib cage and pelvis, all the way to your sit bone. And then find your way over to the other side and welcome the awakening. This is such a great side body fascial stretch. See if you can feel that connection, the link from your fingers to your sit bone. Is there anywhere along the train that you can't feel or that loses its sensation? Breathe in those places. And then come back to center. Come up onto all fours. Feel free to shake out your wrists if you need to, and then curl the toes under and lengthen upward to dog pose. Here we are with starting to open our legs now. So pedal your feet, drop one heel down and bend your opposite knee. And decide if you want to hang out and linger there, or if you'd rather just move, pulse, heel, heel, heel. So you decide what kind of warming is best for your body. Sometimes movement, sometimes stillness. Whatever you're doing, are you breathing? All right, and then to access that yielding quality, let's lift our foot up and then let it down, and lift the other foot and let it down. Lift a hand a little bit off the floor and let it down. Other hand, see if you can find those 4 points of contact with the earth. Yield into them now, all 4 places, and then rise up to the pelvis. Can you feel the rebound, that we're supported by the earth, that we can move into the earth to give us strength and length in our body? Relax your head. Feel how good it feels to exhale with our rib cage above our head. All right, let's walk your feet forward. Come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees a lot. Feel that flexion in the hips again. Lift and widen the sit bones. Perhaps that might make your legs straighten a bit, but don't let the goal be straight legs. Let the goal be tipping the pelvis. Top of the tailbone, lifting, sit bones widening. Let the top of the sacrum follow the spine. Relax your head. Inhale for a halfway lift. Maybe blocks, maybe holding the floor or your legs. Exhale and melt back down. Feel the 4 corners of your feet. Spread out the bones, root to rise. So rooting those feet down, rising up, feeling the arches lift to the hips. Halfway lift again. Maybe your legs straighten a bit more. Sit bones are still lengthening wide. Exhale and fold in half. Rise up, finding your breath. If you're dizzy, take yourself into the midline. See what it feels like. You can squeeze your hands. You can even cross one thigh over another thigh to help you raise your blood pressure up if it sinks down when you come up. Find your breathing. Shake out your hands. I think I'm not the only one who has hand, overuse. I think everybody these days has hand overuse from all the computing. So shake out those wrists and fingers. Get some energy into your fingertips and rise up. Open the chest, lean back a little bit. Feel the heart expand, spread open your wings. Exhale and fold forward again. Relax the head. Halfway lift, high bones back, sit bones high, soft knees. Exhale and melt toward the floor. Step your left foot back. Come into a lunge on this side, feeling the length and space. Now take your time. So anything that needs a little bit more time for you, you can veer off the path of what I'm, presenting, and just follow what your body's asking for. Let's start to move. Square the hips, straighten up the leg a bit. You don't have to worry about that front leg going all the way straight. Just feel that fascial stretch, the hamstring stretch. Try to get into the belly of your hamstring so that you're not just tugging at the back of the knee or the sit bone. Are you breathing? Does it feel good? To awaken the legs a bit. Stay rooted through your foot. Come into a lunge, place your back knee down onto the ground. Now, instead of falling and collapsing into the pelvis, let's press your knee and foot toward each other. If your top of your foot is on the ground, you can press your whole shin into the ground. So decide what's safe for your knee. If you need a blanket underneath your knee, that's great. If you can't put your knee on the floor, stay up. So there's always ways to modify. Open the chest, rise up, feel the sense of space, feel the heart expand and open. Finding some length in that hip flexor on the back leg. And then we're going to find a little twist here. So open up into a twist. Okay, I need to take a blanket underneath my knee today. Okay, finding that sense of space, lengthen through the spine, breathing. And then coming back to center. Lift the back knee up off the ground, back foot comes forward. Fold in half. Remember, sit bones wide, sacrum follows spine. Inhale for a halfway lift. You do not have to straighten your legs all the way. Think more about lifting the sit bones than straightening and pushing the knees back. You'll actually get more hamstring stretch than if you just, feel this, everybody. So straighten your legs, push your knees back, and round your spine a little bit. And you probably don't have nearly as much hamstring stretch as if you bend your knees and lift your sit bones. Okay, so remember your goals here, that it's not to have straight legs, it's to find space and support in the body. Let's go ahead and switch sides. Left foot is forward now, right foot is back. Have the blocks at whatever height you need them to be. Heart is open. Okay, finding breath. All right, and then let's start to bend and straighten the front knee. You can tuck your chin toward your chest if you need to. Breathing as you go. How does this feel in your body to breathe and move? All right, stay rooted through your feet, and then when you're ready, back knee comes down onto the floor. Find that sense of support so we're not falling into the hips. We're hugging front heel and back knee. If your toes are on the ground, press your whole shin toward the floor. Find what's available to root yourself. And then rise up, bringing the arms up, extend through your spine. Maybe your arms come out, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in any specific position. Feel the strength of your legs. So you're hugging into the inner thighs. You're stable with the ground. Feel the ground support you. Finding the breath. And then when you're ready, find that gentle twist. So forearm coming to the knee. Use your other hand to press on your leg to help you lift and lengthen the spine. Stay stable with your inner thighs hugging to the midline. Try not to fall into the pelvis. Reach the crown. Have your breath. Great, and then exhale and release. Lift the back knee up off the floor. This time, 2 hands down, back to dog pose. Extend through the spine here. Breathe your way. And as you're ready, come forward into a plank. Hold steady. So hands are rooting. Try not to round the chest so much. Find that balance with the shoulder blades, neutral on the spine or on the ribs. Integrate your core. A little sit bone widening, a little hugging into the midline. All right, and put the knees down. Find your way to the floor. Take a deep breath. Cobra pose. The chest opens. Exhale and release back down. Pull your hands toward your feet a little bit and rise up again. Find that little bit of traction. Exhale and melt to the floor. Find the ground for a minute. Just wiggle your hips, sway from side to side. Breathing deeply. Okay. All right, and then we're going to stretch just a little bit here. So take your left knee and bring it up toward your left shoulder. Bring your arms, you can either be resting on the ground, or if you need a little height, come into Sphinx pose with your arms, but try not to turn this into a back bend. Keep the torso low, root the knee into the hip and drop weight into that hip toward the floor. Lengthen the spine. Try to keep neutral across the sacrum. Just coming into some deep knee flexion here, or hip flexion rather. And then come down onto the ground. Stretch your right arm overhead and take this into a twist. Let the knee leave the floor. Open the chest, stretch across your chest. Try not to overdo the twist. So let your knee leave as much as it needs to the ground so that your body's not overtaxed. And then release and melt back. Bring your other knee forward. Right knee comes forward, up toward right shoulder. Sphinx pose or torso down, whichever is best for you. Feel into the compression of your hip joint, of your knee joint. Can you feel a lot of core here? So we're not falling into the earth and having a compression in the lumbar spine. Use your abdominal muscles, your transverse abdominis to support. Breathe deeply. Perhaps you sleep like this. You know, there's a fair number of people that sleep with their knee high like this. Okay, now we're gonna twist. So come over, tongue to your side, stretch open your chest. I'm running into furniture, so just go where you go. Allow the hip to, or the knee to lift off the floor at whatever level you need it to. So your spine is not overdoing a twist. How is your breath? All right, then go ahead and find your way back up onto all fours. Have a little swish, swish, sway. Mind your breathing. Okay, and then we're gonna come and bring our hands, come up onto your shins, and we're gonna come into a half Padmasana here. So I like to have my blocks super high for this. You can also use a chair or a piece of furniture. Bring your right leg out in front of you and be really mindful to not hyperextend the right knee and let it fall. I like a lot of blocks underneath me, and I also like furniture close by me. So, you know, support yourself however you need to so that you can find that upward action of the spine. How's your pelvis? Are you tucked under? Can you feel the neutral spine? Take a breath, and we're gonna twist a little bit to the right. So like I said, look at me. I got hands high on blocks, hands on furniture, so that my twisting is high. If you don't have those things around you, try supporting yourself with whatever you need. You can have your hand open in space. You don't have to be holding onto a piece of furniture. See if you can stay rooted. Find the root to rise. Lift through your spine. Breathing. Stretch out through your foot. Try not to hyperextend the knee. The femur bone roots into the hip and drops down. Inner spiral the thighs a bit. Sit bones wide. And then exhale. Remember the breath. Come back down onto your shins. Hopefully your knees are okay. If your knees are not okay, you can do this pose with your foot. You can be standing and put your foot on a low piece of furniture and twist like this. So there's always ways. Once you know what you're looking for in your body, you can play with furniture in all different ways to accommodate an injury or a difficulty in your body. All right, so find your breath, decide where you're going to be. Try not to stick the hip out. Try not to hyperextend the knee. You can take your leg out to the side a little bit more if you need some stability. You can hack it by bringing your foot a little bit wider. Lift through that axial extension. Press your shin into the floor. Drop the hip down without hyperextending the knee. Find the length of the spine and begin to twist. Notice if your foot wants to turn out. See if you can keep a neutral foot, a little inner spiral right at the top of your hip joint, so your sit bones are actually doing the work of widening. How is your breath? All right, great. And let's go ahead and release and come back to center. Bring that foot back, dog pose. Big spinal length. Find your breath. Enjoy this evenness, this sense of balance and symmetry. Feel free to bend your knees a lot. Feel free to lift and widen the sit bones. Ground yourself. When you're ready, right leg lifts up in the air, stack open the hip, stretch through that inner rim of the pelvis, your side body, and square the hips again, and bring your foot forward to a lunge. Rise up and turn sideways on your mat. So you can do this posture if you want with support. So, you know, my knee is bothering me today, so when I get to the other side, I'm definitely going to do this. So just see if you have a knee that's an issue for you, and you're like, I can't do yoga, I can't lunge. There's always ways to accommodate every little possible thing that's going wrong in your body. If you have some injuries or challenges, this is a good one for the knee. You can put the block right below your kneecap and press it into a piece of furniture or a wall so that you can come into Virabhadrasana with some support on that lunge. Another choice, so just be in Virabhadrasana, find your way. Another choice, if your hips or knees are having challenges in these poses, is to do the pose on a chair so that you can find your way. And remember, you can turn the hip as much as you need to. Breathing well. Take your arms where you want them to be in space. All right, and then let's come out and switch to the second side. I won't forget the three-legged dog on the other side, so not to worry. Breathing deeply. As you come into Virabhadrasana on this side, do you need some support for your knee? Remember, the pelvis can turn. Try not to face your hip bones to the long edge of the mat. Turn slightly toward the front edge of your mat. Have your arms wherever they want to be. Remember, we're going where the breath takes us. Press your feet into the earth. Find those deeper muscles underneath your glutes. Press your front heel into the ground to activate your hamstrings and your glutes. Breathe well. Can you spin your foot, that front foot? Can you turn the toes to the left, heel to the right? Nothing's moving, just nice symmetric to light up some of those deeper muscles. Breathe your way here. Notice where your back knee is at. Do you need to soften it a little bit? Can you root into the ground and feel that rebound? All right, let's go ahead and come on up. We're just going to ping pong left and right here with these traditional poses that we do all the time so that you don't overtax your pelvis. So remember, trying to open the hips without it overdoing strain on our sacrum. So one of the things you can do to help you with that, if you really feel like it's difficult for you to do some of these standing poses, try taking heel to heel aligned instead of front heel to back arch aligned, or even take your back foot forward more so that you can turn the pelvis a little bit as you come into Parsva Konasana. You can try putting the block on the inside edge of your knee. On the outside edge, you can put your elbow on your knee. There's always ways to modify. Once again, try not to open up the pelvis to the long edge of the mat. Let the pelvis turn to a comfortable place so we're not over compressing the sacroiliac joint. Stretch your arm in the air if you want to, maybe up to the sky. See what you can do to blossom open your chest and spread the collarbones without overdoing the compression in your sacrum. Root both feet. How are you doing with the yielding, the breathing? Remember these core principles that permeate every posture, no matter what our alignment takes us to, no matter what shape we end up in. Can you feel a little inner spiral of that back leg? Don't let your knee torque. You can turn your toes in a little bit more to help with that alignment. All right. And then rise up and turn your feet the other way. So remember, there's always support if a knee needs it or a hip needs it. It's okay to turn the back toes in more. It's okay to change where your back leg is placed. It's okay to not go as deep in the posture. It's okay to support your front knee like I'm doing. So find all the little tricks to help you be stable and feeling at ease. Remember that first seated posture we did where we're trying to align with ease? Can you find that in this posture? You can put your hand on a block or elbow on a knee. You can stretch your arm overhead or leave it down or anywhere you want. Open across the chest. Press your feet into the ground. That front heel will give some activity to the glutes. Spin the jar lid of that foot. Open through the axial extension of your spine. Take your breath for a ride. Where is it easily going? Are you trying to overwork your shoulders to breathe, your neck to breathe? Can you fill up the diaphragm? Let it be spacious in its drop and widening on your inhale. Are you grounded in the back foot without locking the knee? And find your way out. Let's spin back to the front of the mat. Bring your feet back, dog pose. Extend through your spine. Feel some neutrality. Inhale, lift your left leg high. Stack the hip over the other. Stretch through the front of your pelvis. And then square up the hips again, dog pose. Reach your heart toward the pelvis. Ground the four corners of your feet, the four corners of your hands. Feel the yielding to rebound through the length of the spine. How's your breath? Can you melt some tension? Let's come forward, finding a plank. Hold yourself steady. Let's lower yourself to the ground. Find a breath. Inhale, any back bend you want. If Cobra Pose isn't your favorite, choose a different one. Exhale and melt back down. Come over onto your back for a moment. Okay. All right, let's put our feet neutral on the ground. We're going to do a couple of variations of bridge pose. So first, just come into a regular old bridge pose. Find the lift of the pelvis. Notice if you kind of tend to lift one hip higher than the other. Try not to let the pubic bone be your force upward toward the sky. See if you can let it be a little bit more full than that so that there's your breath of your belly is widening and opening to the sky as well. Root all four corners of your feet into the earth. Sometimes when we lift just our pubic bone, we tend to tuck the tailbone and come into a little bit of a posterior tilt. What can you do to counter that? Maybe put a block between your thighs so you're working with the adductors. Maybe widen the sit bones a little bit. Feel the four corners of your feet. See if you can help the pelvis be in a little bit more neutral place than trying to tuck the tailbone and thrust the pelvis up. Open through the spine, the belly, the chest, all four corners of your feet, moving into the earth. Okay, and then relax and melt back down onto the floor. Feel free to sway your feet a little bit left and right, breathing deeply. We're going to prepare for this posture by doing reverse pigeon pose. So right foot on left knee, and you can go ahead and grab on behind your thigh. You can use a strap. You can keep your foot on the floor. You can go deeper and grab your shin. Sometimes I put one hand on my knee, one hand on each knee, I guess. And just fine. Maybe you want to sway from side to side. What's available in your hip joint rotation right now? How's your breath? Okay. Unwind that. Stretch that right leg straight for a moment and then bring it back. Foot on the floor, left foot on right knee. and experiment. Before you lift your legs up, notice where your pelvis wants to go. So, you know, when you put that foot on your knee, do you hike your right hip up toward your shoulder, or do you tip to one side or the other? Where's your tendency? You know, where do you try to go to escape the opening of the external rotation of that left femur bone in the hip joint? Let's find the depth of the pose wherever you're naturally going to go. And once you do, are you active through your left foot? Press through the big toe and the inner heel so we're not collapsed. And feel free to move around a little bit. Do you want to sway side to side? Do you want to do a little circling? What does it feel like to have a neutral spine here instead of just rolling into a pelvic tilt or posterior tilt? Breathe well. And then relax and melt that leg down. Starfish your body out, legs straight for a moment. Open your breath. And then put your feet on the ground. We're going to do a little bit of a tricky bridge pose. So right foot comes on left knee, and we're going to, instead of having our left knee in line with our left hip, we're going to cross it a little bit closer to the midline so we can come up and balance. Now you may be like, oh, heck no, I'm not doing this. And if that's the case, have a block handy, because you can always do this just with a low block under your pelvis, okay? But if you want to try it, then go ahead and find a bridge pose with your hips coming into this figure 4 pattern. You can hold your pelvis like I'm doing. I have my thumbs kind of hooked under my hips, and just see what it feels like. Where are you working from? Can you not fold into the lumbar spine? Can you feel a sense of strength all around? Support your foot, press it into the earth. And then relax and melt your pelvis back down. Now, if you're like, that just doesn't work for me, there's 2 things to try with the second side. One, you can try putting a low pelvis block, a low block under your pelvis, so the pose doesn't have to have the strength to support the lift. Or you can try instead just crossing your thigh over your thigh and coming up instead of a figure 4. Whichever you're doing, try not to have so much lift. You don't have to go super high. There's no competition here about how far you can thrust your pelvis up into the air. Left foot on top of right knee. Right foot comes closer to the midline. Decide your variation. When you're ready, I'll cue to the pose that we did on the, or that I did on the other side. Root all 4 corners of your feet. Notice if your left hip wants to drop. Keep the pelvis balanced. See if you can use the glutes, but not just only the glutes. What's helping you here? Can you feel your core? Can you feel your inner thighs? Can you ground all 4 corners of your foot? Open the hip and let the breath come. Try not to take tension in your neck and shoulders. It's not a race to the top. Who cares how high you go? And then exhale and relax. Bring your knees into your chest and swing them wide and back in. Have a little bit of pelvic movement. We're rocking from anterior to posterior as we play with the openness of our knees. A simple twist. Lift your hips, move them right, knees up, drop them left. Open the spine, turn the head, open the chest. How's your breathing? Come back to center. Scooch your hips to the left, knees come high toward your chest and drop them right. Remember, you can always put a block under your shins to stop the twist from going so deep. How's your breath here? All right, inhale and come back. Roll over onto your left side and come up all the way to stand. Sorry to make you get back up. You probably thought, oh, we're down. Yay, we're down. So come back up to stand. And let's shake out the wrists. Let's wiggle through your hips. Kind of, you can bounce. Just get back into the standing posture. Bouncing is really good for your spine. So everybody just bounce a little bit. Can you feel like the jiggle through your vertebrae? And let go of any tension. Deep belly breath. Let's find Tadasana. Let's enjoy Tadasana for a minute. 4 corners of your feet yielding. Knees are soft. Breath traveling to the pelvis. All right, let's bear some weight into your right foot. Let's just start this by lifting our left knee up. You can bring your arms out if you want, whatever balance support you need. Okay, and then put that foot down onto the ground and change sides. Soften the knee. Try not to lock out. See what you can do to find a sense of soft focus with your gaze. You're not hard and rigid in this posture. Okay, and then relax. I'm going to give you two choices because one may feel better for you than the other. So we're going to stay rooted in our right foot, and we're either going to come into a figure four posture where we're drawing the sit bones back and wide. You can use support if you need to hold on to something. And if that rotation of the hips isn't feeling good to you today, then let's just cross thigh over thigh and do eagle pose instead. That's a little bit like, do you like chocolate or strawberry ice cream better? So I hate to make you choose two flavors, and you can sneak in both if you want. But let's just see what it feels like. I'll come into figure four on this side, and then I'll do Gomukhasana on the other. So if you're in figure four, same thing applies. And remember, you can take your arms wide. Okay, the knees draw back into the pelvis, the sit bones widen, a neutral pelvis. The spine is long and the breath is deep. Place your arms wherever you want. Go as deep as your body says go. If you're in Gomukhasana, squeeze into the midline. Hug the thighs into each other. Find the chest rising. We're still in that neutral pelvic, neutral lumbar curve. Breathing deep. And then open yourself up. Spread out your feet. And come back to a neutral place. Tadasana. Breathing in, breathing out. Remember, our breath is our best friend in our practice. So if you find yourself going places without it, just pause. You can always stop anything that you're doing at any point. So let go of the goals and instead come into the moment. Let's find the second side so you can cross into figure four. If you're doing figure four, notice if your hips do a weird thing, like you pop your hip out to the side or twist or do something funky to try to get away from the pose. Try to keep your hips neutral, femur bones moving back, sit bones wide, neutral spine. And if you're in Gomukhasana, we want to hug to the midline. So squeeze those legs. Find the evenness across your pelvis. Your low back is, whichever pose you're doing, your lumbar spine is in a neutral place. Arms can go up, arms can go out, arms can go together. So find what's available to you. If you need to hold on to something, do that. Let yourself find the depth with the breath of whatever you're doing. Okay, and then when you're ready to come out, come back to stand Tadasana one more time. Enjoy. Close your eyes for a moment, 2 feet on the ground, knees soft, experience the yielding. Long, steady exhales. Okay. Rise up, open your chest, heart to the sky. Exhale, bend your knees and fold. Okay, come down onto the ground. You have a choice here. You have 3 choices here. Pigeon pose, reverse pigeon pose, or reverse Gomukhasana or cow face legs. So, pigeon pose is one leg forward, the other leg stretches back. If you're in reverse pigeon, you put your foot like we just did before. If you're in Gomukhasana or cow face legs, I never know which one to call it because they're kind of the same when you're upside down like this. We're going to cross one leg over the other, thigh over thigh. So decide which way you want to be. Remember, the goal here is to not contort your femur bone. You want to feel, whatever you're doing, that there's space across your sacrum, that you're not prying the SI joint open, that you're really getting into the belly of the muscular opening instead of bone. Okay, so try to notice what your sacroiliac joint is feeling. Is it stable and relaxed? You shouldn't feel prying or pulling on your sacroiliac joint. Deep breaths here. Support yourself in whatever way you need. If you're in pigeon pose, having support underneath your back thigh and front sit bone. Are you long in your spine? Are your shoulders relaxed? And then let's go ahead and find our way out of that side and switch to the other side. So if you're on your back, you can just change your legs. If you're in pigeon pose and you want to continue doing pigeon pose on the other side, you can stretch back up to dog pose if you want and then switch, or you can just switch your legs, however you like. Make sure your pelvis is even. No matter what you're doing, we're not trying to hike one hip up or roll one hip forward. We're trying to prevent that torsion. We want to have a sense of balance and symmetry. We're still widening the sit bones and creating a neutral lumbar spine. Check in with your sacroiliac joints no matter what you're doing, and make sure you're not feeling like you're having a tug on that SI joint. See what it feels like to support yourself more. Lose the sense that the goal is to go deeper. Can you start to feel quality of sensation in your mid-range instead of your end point range? Is there a gift in the breath for this? Is there a sense of ease that can come from being in your mid-range instead of your end range? Is there space in your mid-range? Is there a sense of ease and pliability, mobility, adaptability? Anything's possible in mid-range. Breathing. There is absolutely 100% nothing wrong with taking support. All right, let's go ahead and find our way out of there. And we're gonna come onto our back, if you're not already there, and just bring your knees to your chest for a moment. Knees together, rocking side to side. And then to counter some of that external rotation, feet come down onto the floor a little wider than your hips. And like we began, let's internally rotate. So let the right knee come toward the left foot. And then come back up and let the left knee go toward the right foot. And you can do a little more maneuvering back and forth like this. Now just discover, what does your body need? Okay, so do you need a little extension? You know, perhaps you want to roll over onto your side and grab your foot and stretch your quad and your hip flexor a little bit. Perhaps you want to come into happy baby pose. Perhaps that you want a twist. So just take some time to find what your body's asking you for this last moment before Shavasana. And then remember, as we come to Shavasana, so take your time getting there. This is truly a gift. To be in Shavasana is a gift. So let's try not to ignore the gift and, oh, my practice is done. Spend at least a couple of minutes being here, okay? I'll hold you for a little bit longer than that. I just sense into that quality of letting your body deeply rest. If you can, let your legs be straight. If you need support underneath your knees, take support underneath your knees. So just find whatever it is you need to feel like your pelvis is relaxed and soft, your sacrum is neutral, you feel supported by gravity and the earth. Once you are able to rest your pelvis in this way, feel the spine rest as well. Feel the limbs. Where do you want them? Do you want your limbs wider away from the midline, closer? What is going to give you the best capacity to drop the weight of your limbs, all 4 of them? Really, all 6 of them. Let your head and your pelvis be a limb too. Melt the head, the back of the skull into the earth. Let the neck and the base of the skull soften. Relax what you can through your face, the way you express. Free up tension in your diaphragm so your breath is free. Does it feel good to rest? Let's begin to deepen our breathing again. Come into the feeling of your body resting. Can you let this echo of rest travel with you as you transition out of Shavasana? Just taking time to move your body. Coming onto your side. Lifting yourself up to sit as you're ready. There's no rush. find our way into placing your hands at your heart and bowing in. Come into the calm, centered place. Take a beautiful breath. Release the breath. Let's offer your energy. Okay, let's offer our whatever you're offering, your love, your care, outward to the world, to one specific person. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.